Thank you, Quinn. All right, we'll give everybody just a moment longer. We like to start on time, but give everybody just a moment longer to jump in, and then we will get started. Hello, everyone. Well, we've got some people jumping in here, so it looks like we can get the ball rolling in just a moment. Couple quick housekeeping items for everybody. Our agenda today is, of course, David Jackson speaking to us about the cost of not aligning our go-to-market. We also have Quinn Reagan, who is going to show us some examples of how you can align feedback inside your CRM. And we're going to do some Q&A at the end. Before we get started today, though, we're going to kick off a poll here. This will help us kind of just get a sense of where everybody's at. So if you don't mind going ahead and answering our poll. So do you feel like you're aligned around customer insights today? The options are no, not at all, sometimes, but not always. Yes, we share customer insights across our go-to-market function. So if you guys could answer that poll, that would be great. That'll just give us an idea of kind of where everybody's at today as we get started. We still have some people joining, so give that poll just a minute longer so that the new people that are joining can jump in and answer that poll. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. All right, we're going to kick things off. So hopefully everybody was able to answer that poll for us. That'll give us, again, some indicator of where we're at here, and help us kind of understand where everybody is at today. It looks like most everybody said that sometimes we are aligned, but not always. So that's a good starting point, David. So hopefully you'll be able to talk to that today. So just to welcome everybody again one more time. So thanks for joining us today. We are going to get things started here. First up, as speaking today, is a dear friend of mine, David Jackson, CEO of the Customer Co. And Quinn Reagan. He's going to be showing us some examples of how you can utilize some of the things that David talks about by gathering insights and getting them in your CRM and taking action on them. So David and Quinn are going to be our speakers. David's going to spend about 20 minutes talking, and Quinn will take 5 to 10 minutes to show you these examples. And we are just delighted that everybody could join us today. We're going to get started. We will first hear from David. And so, David, go ahead and take it from here.
Thank you, Casey, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. It's good evening my time. I'm based just outside of London, hence the very strange accent that you're hearing. Just so that you are aware, we shall be recording the session, so if you want to catch up on something afterwards or share it with colleagues, put them through the same sort of pain that I'm going to put you through, then feel free to do that. So yeah, I'm going to talk about aligning go-to-market, and go-to-market is my favorite topic. I spend all of my time researching, advising, vibe coding, all sorts of things around go-to-market. A little bit about me, if I can get my thing to work. Oh, sorry, yeah, here we go. I founded a software company back in 2000, probably one of the first 5 UK SaaS companies. And strangely enough, it was a SaaS company that did forms and surveys called ClickTools. So it's a field that I've been in for quite a long time and run it successfully, grew it organically, sold it twice. And since 2015, having sold the whole of it, I I've been spending my time as in the customer.co, advising and coaching CEOs, SaaS CEOs mainly, including SurveyVista, on how to really build the whole of go-to-market, the whole of the organization around focus on the customer. And one of my hobbies, I started something called the Customer-Led Growth Forum, which is the last book that I wrote a few years ago. So that's a bit about me. It's a topic dear to my heart. So let's start by understanding what we mean by, let's align on alignment. Let's start there. Because it's very particular. Alignment is an agreement between people who want to work together because of shared interests or goals. So it's agreement. It's not something you can impose on people. You can't say, you must be aligned. You can say that, but from experience, I can tell you it doesn't work. People have got to want to work together, and they'll only work together if part of those shared interests addresses their interests. So alignment is something which has to be built rather than imposed. Now, if you look at it, alignment actually is a really beautiful thing. Some of you may know this. This is a thing called a murmuration of starlings. It's a small bird. And if you look at it, over time, they start to get aligned and they form beautiful patterns. So alignment really is beautiful. It's also very, very effective. Starlings build this thing called a murmuration for two reasons. One is because it's the best way for them to survive. But the second is they do it in the evening, particularly because they actually socialize. It's social gathering, and they share their experiences and what they've learned of the day. And you can see there they're working together to see off a predator. So if it's done effectively, alignment really is very effective. And the same, by the way, is true in business. So if you look at your go-to-market, the question is, which is your go-to-market engine? Is it like this, which I suspect, by the way, most are? All the cogs are out of sync, the joining mechanism are disconnected, and it chugs along very painfully, very powerfully, making lots of noise, lots of smoke, but not getting anywhere very fast? Or is it something which is a really, really fine-tuned, joined up, in sync? And you can see there, those are some of the things that you need to think about in terms of alignment. Because if you get it right, an aligned engine delivers really, really great performance. I'll give you a few examples. So this is just 4 points out of some research, and if you want some more, I've got more. But companies that have got strong go-to-market aligned teams grow 19% faster than others. They are 15% more profitable than others. Those two data points are from Forrester. They win more deals than others, 38% more deals. That's over a third more deals than non-aligned teams win. And once they win them, they keep them. Again, over a third higher levels of retention through alignment. And that is quite simple, because all alignment means in the go-to-market, if you think about it in very simple terms, is you figure out what matters to customers. And once you've figured that out and how they benefit from that, then that's what you market, that's what you sell, that's what your product or service delivers, enables, and that's what any services helps to provide. So the benefits are very, very real, very, very significant. And you'll notice, by the way, that everything in there are the sort of metrics that your chief exec, your CFO, and your board are interested in. So if you want to think about how do I get onto their agenda, start talking about how you can use feedback to help them with their alignment. But you don't just align. Alignment needs a basis. So if you look at all of these pictures, you can see a pattern in there. And that pattern just didn't happen. It is a designed pattern. It's by intent. And the same is true of go-to-market. You need to have a basis around which teams can align. And there is no prizes for guessing that the most powerful form of alignment that a go-to-market team can have is customers. Because everybody should be focused on your target customers, what their needs are, how we enable that, how we communicate with them, how we help them succeed. So customers are the most powerful basis of alignment. And by the way, by choosing customers as the basis for alignment, you also align with customers. So you get a double whammy, a double benefit. So alignment is intentional, it has to be designed, and it does deliver results. But in delivering results, it has to be around customers. So let's now focus a little bit more on feedback and why non-aligned feedback, siloed feedback fails. And believe me, it really does. So here's just two or three reasons. The first is fragmented data. If your customer data is all over the place and it's trapped outside your CRM, you really cannot see the true picture of your customers. Now, the picture in there is a jigsaw. Imagine trying to do a complex jigsaw when you don't have a picture which sets out what the detail is. Or imagine another thing. Imagine a dot-to-dot puzzle. You know, and the more dots you've got, the bigger, the better, the richer the picture you can describe using them. But imagine then having some dots on one page and some dots on another page and some dots 4 pages later on. Or even worse, some dots are in a completely different book. You're never, ever going to be able to see that true picture. So you need to be able to bring that single view of the customer. And the only place to do that sensibly is in your CRM system, in Salesforce. If you don't, as it says there, you're flying blind with one hand tied behind your back. You're playing at it. You're not really doing it. The second is now trying to take some action based on that data. And again, you've got some of the data over here and some of the workflow over here and some of the data in another system and some of the workflow in another system. You've just created another stack of chaos because automation across multiple systems is extremely complex. It's extremely complex to build. It's even worse when you try to maintain it because you've got to make sure that the change you make over there, you reflect over here and it's reflected over there. And by the way, the person in charge of that system is different to the person in charge of this system, which is different to this system over here, which nobody's in charge of. So you've got utter chaos. I hope I'm not saying anything which resembles your companies. I'm sure I'm not. And the third thing is it's very, very risky. If you are in the Salesforce ecosystem, you will have doubtless seen over the last 6 months, I think there's so far been about 4 companies which have had their access to Salesforce cut by Salesforce because their systems have been hacked. And guess what? Guess where they've been hacked? They've been hacked at the point of integration. So Salesforce wasn't hacked. The systems were hacked and they caused a leak of Salesforce data through the integration tube. So every integration you've got is like this rickety path into your gateway, and it is a hacker's dream. And some of these are not sophisticated technology hacks. They're actually quite sophisticated social and personal attacks. They get into personal data and figure things out. So fragmented data, fragmented workflows, risky integrations. That's what makes siloed feedback very, very unsuccessful. Now, let's go take one step back and say, well, why do we have feedback at all? There is only one reason that you collect any form of feedback from customers, and that is to use it to improve performance. You want to do some more, something better, something faster, something less risky, something. You want to increase your revenue. You want to reduce your churn. You want better quality products. You want to get to market faster. And that, again, is the agenda that your CEO, your C-suite, your board are interested in. How do we improve the performance of our business? And again, if you can attach what you are doing to things that matter to them, then you're going to get on their agenda, you're going to get their time, you're going to get their attention, and you're going to get their money. So let's just keep that in the background. Now, in doing this, a lot of people focus on the dashboards. By the way, at SurveyVista, we've got some really good dashboards. But dashboards is a stepping stone. And the title there is Dashboards Won't Do because they don't do. You only improve performance by doing something based on what you gather and what you understand. So dashboards, if that's the only thing you do, then dashboards are where feedback goes to die. If you're not taking the next steps, if you're not making decisions, in other words, applying intelligence to that, and triggering workflows and changes based on that, preferably instantaneously, then again, your feedback's not going to be effective. And as we get more and more, we start turning more and more work over to AI, as that starts taking on more and more of our standard basic workflows, this link between the data that we collect, the decisions that we make, and the actions that we take is going to get driven by AI. Guess what AI needs to be effective? Rich, contextual, up-to-date data, including feedback. So you really do need to get all this together in one place, act upon on one place. So what are the foundations for what we think you need to do? 4 things: strategic alignment, unified infrastructure, actionable intelligence, and continuous optimization. Let me just go through each one of those in order. First, strategic alignment. What you've got to do is you've got to bring together the shared signals that the business needs to drive revenue. Now, I know a lot of you will do NPS surveys. They're an important piece of data, but there's a very weak correlation between, for example, NPS scores and retention intent in B2B. Stronger in B2C, which is where all the original research on NPS was done. So you've really got to get to what are the signals I need to drive revenues. So you need to focus your feedback around what your go-to-market imperatives are. What are the results that matter? In 2 senses, what are the results that matter to your customers, but also what are the results that matter to your company? And for each of these signals that you build, each of these data points you collect, you have to have an owner. Back in the day when I was running a feedback and survey company, we used to have a little saying which said, every question in every survey and every form has to have an owner. And if you don't have an owner, you shouldn't have the question in the first place. Because if you're not going to act, don't ask. And the other thing is that the reason that you have that ownership is people have got to be responsible for taking action. The action part of feedback is where you get the return. The collection and the understanding, they're very important elements, but they're the cost piece. You have to spend money on those to get the right, to make the decisions to take the right actions. So action's the return, the other 2 pieces are the cost. Second thing, unified infrastructure. Salesforce is the system, not a system. I read a post on LinkedIn, I think only today, which said that CRM is a system of record. Well, I think CRM is the system of record around customers because of this critical importance of a single source of the truth. How many times have you been into a meeting where people have said something and you look at your data and say, oh, that's not what my data says. And you spend half the time arguing about whose data's right rather than what action you're going to take. If you've got one version of the truth, all that time goes into understanding it, taking the decision to make the action. And again, if it's native in Salesforce, then you can seamlessly, instantaneously drive the actions. You can actually act on an issue that a customer's got before they start to think about, oh, I'm not happy with that. So you're acting before they made a decision to downgrade you, to leave perhaps, not to buy anything else from you. And of course, the AI point again. I can't underestimate just how important rich data is to AI. And then the safety piece. I don't think we're seeing the last of the platforms being cut off from Salesforce because of data hacks. And by the way, these aren't tiny companies. We're talking about people like the leading CS platform in the world, Gainsight, one of the leading sales enablement platforms, SalesLoft. Really big platforms. But if you've got it in Salesforce, you only have one vector of weakness, Salesforce. which, by the way, is not very weak. So with SurveyVista, because it's Salesforce native, you inherit all of that Salesforce infrastructure, security, and trust. The third one is, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, but it's the intelligence piece. It is about the decisions you make. And if that information that you've got, if that intelligence you've got is not complete, your context is incomplete, therefore you're unable to take the right sort of actionable intelligence. So you need it to be context aware, you need it to be real time, so you can act before the customer does, and you need to power the AI effectively. And again, the little picture on the side, use it or lose it. Don't just
David,
collect
I
data,
think we had another
use
poll
it.
we were going to throw in here. Sorry to interrupt. Can we
Sorry,
put another
yeah,
poll
yeah,
in? Yeah, I just want to make
yeah.
sure we don't miss that opportunity.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Quinn. You can launch that poll now. Sorry, everybody. Just we wanted to continue to engage with you guys and get your feedback. And so we have another poll here that we're going to launch.
Yeah, the poll.
Oh
There we
no.
go.
Is it giving us a hard time?
Yeah, it's Zoom's not working on the poll. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue. Sorry about that, everyone. Keep going, David. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's okay. I must have known that subliminally. Actually, no. Anybody that knows will tell me it's very difficult to get me to shut up. Oh,
Look, our
Better late
poll
than
just
never.
launched, everybody.
Better late than
So
never.
we'd love to know if you were able to act on all of your customer feedback. Never, rarely, sometimes or always. Pretty simple poll, but just are you able to act on the feedback that you get? Are you just creating, dashboards and reports and having conversations about them? Or are you able to act and automate some of that action? So if everybody
and
could
I would
answer
say
that
it's not
poll.
just are you. It's not just are you able to, but do you actually
So sometimes,
sometimes?
yes, awesome.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
awesome. Thank
and
you.
that response does not surprise me at all. I would say one thing. Of the other times that aren't sometimes, what does your customer think about you? Just keep that in mind. So this is so important. So Casey showed me some data which had been updated recently. 71% of customers don't give you feedback. And the reason why is because they don't think you're going to act on it. So if you're not getting the volume of feedback you want, it's not because your surveys aren't good. It's probably because they're not seeing you act. And by the way, that's important. It's not just that you act, you have to let them know that you've acted. That perception has to be real. It has to be reinforced. One of the best examples of that I ever saw was a company from my previous survey company. They actually had a web page up on their website, which was feedback. And that was updated every day. It was batched overnight and the feedback was updated. And what it said was, this is what we've heard. And then I can't remember, it was once a week or I think it was once a month. They put a piece on there which said, and by the way, based on your feedback, this is the actions we've taken. And that was typically the first page of the first item on their survey. They told people what they'd acted on before they asked you to give them the feedback, or they give you the opportunity to look at that. So never underestimate the importance of letting customers know what you've done, both for them individually, but as a collective group. The last one of my four pieces of feedback, of foundations. So hopefully I'll get this. Oh, come on, catch up with me. The reason is I don't stop. Okay, let's start again. There we go. Right. Once you've built your feedback, you've not stopped. You have to continuously keep your program up to date. And by continuous optimization, what I mean is that the principle is that you need to track outcomes. You need to track customer outcomes. You need to track your revenue outcomes. And particularly customer outcomes never change. What customers want is this wonderful dynamic thing. You give them that, I want something else. You give them that, they want something else. So it's a lovely dynamic for keeping you up to date all the time. So you need to use that, and you need to start to look at how can I optimize the feedback that I'm getting so that I'm getting feedback that helps me improve life for my customers and for my company. And the people that do this best don't think about feedback as a project or a program. They think about it as a fundamental capability that runs seamlessly and continuously through their organization over time. It's embedded for the long term, not just something, oh, it's time to do feedback. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous capability. And when you're thinking about that, just be a bit creative. You know, we all think when we think about feedback, we think about surveys, NPS and CSAT, close case, which Quinn's going to show you an example of. But just open your mind about and just really think about, what does your customer journey look like? In fact, a great exercise is to map out your customer journey at a very high level and just mark on there what the absolutely key touch points are across your journey. And then say, right, what do I need to understand from customers about how well we did at that touch point? And it's how well we did in context of things that matter to them, not that you think are important. If it doesn't matter to customers, you shouldn't ask them about it, because it's not about you, it's about them. So think a little bit outside the box. Think about, am I testing how I've delivered value to my customers? Am I making sure that internally my processes are working so I've got an effective handover checklist? All things that you can do in SurveyVista. And all things, if you get that whole life cycle, you can start to share and say, oh, actually, this stuff that we found out about opportunities, expansion opportunities, it goes back to what we understood at intent. You can start to connect the dots across the life cycle. One final plug for SurveyVista in terms of why you should really think about SurveyVista is this native advantage. Now, you've talked about the one in the middle about security and, you know, just really narrowing down the attack surfaces that you're providing. But the advantages of being 100% native are very, very significant. Data's there instantly. You're not waiting for a batch integration. You're not waiting for even a real-time integration. You're not waiting for it to come from another system. You're not waiting for it to be shared in a Salesforce and imported in a CSV file. It's there right away, which means that you can drive actions on it right away, which means you can start to build a much richer context for AI to play with and give you some really powerful insights, which means that everybody in your organization sees the same picture. Not different data sets, sees the same, so you can act quicker. So, a couple of things just to close. Your to-do list. Ask yourself these 3 questions and these 3 sub-questions in each. Do your surveys actually test what really matters to your customers? And how does the data that you're getting back relate to how you generate revenue and how you drive meaningful outcomes for customers and for your company? If you were to score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on how complete your view of the customer is, what would you give yourself? Betting not many of you will give yourself a 10 or a 9. Maybe a few in the middle, maybe a few a little bit further down. Have you got people that own every piece of feedback so that you can make sure that every piece of feedback is acted upon and that you're measuring outcomes that matter to your customers? So can you act in real time? Not when it's too late, not when the customer's walked away, not when the customer's changed their mind and not told you about it, but they've given you feedback. Remember the 71%, they're giving you feedback because they're expecting you to act. Not they're expecting you, they're actually demanding that you act upon it. So can we then, because as we build this rich view, can we start to look at the data set and say, ooh, these sorts of customers did these things and achieved these outcomes, which was good for us in this way. The more data you've got, the more you can build some powerful attribution models. And if your chief information security officer comes to you and say, are we safe? Can you put your hand on your heart and say, yes, absolutely. We're as safe as Salesforce. So if that's caused you to think a little bit, please take our assessment. If you wanted to test yourself around those 4 feedback foundations, click on this take a snap of the QR code. It'll take you straight to that assessment and you can complete it. You'll get a report back. Guess what? You get your first report back in real time feedback. Practice what you preach. And then if you want some more detail, you can contact us. So again, if you want to contact us, then just give us a call. This QR code will take you to our Calendly page where you can book a call. And if you're lucky, you'll get a call with Quinn. If you're unlucky, you'll get a call with me. And that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Quinn is going to now jump in and show us a couple of real world examples of how feedback and insights to action work. So Quinn, take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through a high-level demo of how you could use SurveyVista to not only build surveys, but send them out, bring that data back into Salesforce, and act upon that. SurveyVista is a 100% native Salesforce application. We help our customers drive continuous improvements through collecting and acting on feedback data. And we do this in 3 simple ways. We help you collect better data, understand that data deeper, and really act smarter when you receive that data. So this is SurveyVista when you're going in to start to build a survey. You can easily create with AI. You can create a form, or you can create a survey from scratch, or choose a pre-built template. I'm going to choose a template that we just brought in here with this fancy concert background. This is SurveyVista inside Salesforce. This is where you would come to build your surveys. I've added a few survey questions by simply clicking on the add question type. We have over 40 different question types, so you can really build any kind of survey that you'd like, quickly adding it with a point and click. But once you've built your survey, you want to send it out. So there's a few different ways, actually many different ways to send out surveys with SurveyVista. You can use SMS, you can use email, you can embed the surveys in your website. You can actually create a QR code if you're at an event. But maybe you're like most of our customers and you want to do this automatically. You want to leverage automation from some kind of an event in Salesforce. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to open up my case object, and I'm going to close out a case, which will trigger a survey. We'll take it live, and then we'll see the data flow back into Salesforce. So I'll go ahead and close the case. I'm going to jump into my email inbox. And here we go. We've just received the survey. We're going to do a few different things with this survey. We've created automation to act upon low scores received on this customer satisfaction question that we've embedded right here in the email invitation. We're going to create a Slack alert. I'll show you that. And we've also have a NPS question where we've created automation to deliver an email to the right stakeholder when we get scores like a 10. So we can go after those folks and talk to them about referrals and upsells. So I'm just going to go ahead and start this survey. I'm going to give myself a 2 for how did we do for you today. This is going to work with the automation that I'd like to demonstrate for you today. Once we click on the survey invitation, it just simply launches the rest of the survey in a browser. So we'll quickly just go through the survey. I've got like a slider ranking question here. I've got my net promoter score. I'm going to give a 10 here so that we can take a look at the automation delivered by the 10. And then we close the survey with an open-ended comment. I'll just say my case was not resolved. So we use sentiment analysis to take a look at these open-ended comment questions that allow you to act upon these as well. I'll show that in a second. But we're finished here with the survey. If I jump back into my case and I refresh, you can see that we have, without integration, without any pushing or pulling, we're native to Salesforce. This data goes right back into the case object. Here's the 2 on the CSAT score, the 10 on the NPS score, my open-ended comment that I typed in, and we've accurately labeled this as a negative comment. I want to show you some of the action follow-up here. So on the 2 on the CSAT score, this actually triggered a Slack alert here. So this can go out to the team that's monitoring your CSAT scores. They can take immediate action. If I hop back into my Gmail inbox, we should have another email triggered right away here. This is a result of the 10 that we received. So this is really an example of how, action can happen immediately. This can go out to the account manager, the stakeholder that's responsible for this customer. Again, great opportunities for expansion opportunities, testimonial case studies, or even a referral. For every survey that you create and send with SurveyVista, we provide out-of-the-box reporting. This report here is auto-generated. There's nothing that you need to do. So we're going to give you survey metrics. We're going to give you a tabular report and survey results. We're calculating scores like your NPS score, your CSAT score, deliverability rates, how many were sent, how many were responded, how many were clicked to. And we also provide this sentiment analysis. So those open-ended comment questions, we're capturing all of the terms that are being logged in, and we're providing scoring on these terms so that you can understand, hey, are we talking about my service levels in a positive or a negative fashion? So this is tracking all of the terms that we're capturing in your open-ended comment questions. Lastly, also out of the box, we provide pre-built dashboards. So we've got CSAT dashboards that you can use. We have NPS dashboards that you can use. These are all pre-configured but customizable by your team, and we're here to work with you to make sure these dashboards work and act exactly as you'd like them to look and feel. And that's kind of the round trip.
Thank you, Quinn. I think we have one last poll to launch here. Just quick question if anybody is interested in a follow-up with Quinn. I know we had some QR codes, but you can just raise your hand here in this poll if we can get it to launch.
Yeah, raise your hand if you can. The poll is,
Okay.
again, not
So we're
working.
struggling with the poll again. Sorry about that. Also, feel free to add some questions into the Q&A. We have a few minutes here to answer questions. So thank you, Quinn and David, for your great presentation here. But if you do have questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A section here. But we'll go ahead and get started with a couple of questions I have seen. So let me see here. So if your feedback is in Salesforce, can you still produce reports that show the results of your automated actions? I don't know which one of you wants to answer that, but if you could jump in, is there a way to still show to build a report off of what actions you've taken?
So if the action's been taken in Salesforce, then you can apply Salesforce reporting as well as out-of-the-box SurveyVista reporting.
Okay.
So I believe the answer to that is I'm pretty sure that the answer to that is yes, you can. And again, depending on what information you've held against that action, you should be able to report what actions were successful. You should be able to report how many actions were taken. Any of the details that you're holding in a standard Salesforce field or a custom field, then you can report on.
Okay. There are a couple questions that are similar in nature, but if the feedback program that they currently have is fragmented, is siloed, is sitting in multiple systems, where do they start? What's the first kind of thing to do to really get started to align?
Yeah, so I'll pick that one up. So the first thing I would do is I would go back to my customer journey and I would map out what that looks like, and I would map my existing activity on top of that. I'd then take that picture, I'd call Quinn and say, how can we make this happen in SurveyVista quite quickly? And that might sound a flip point, it might sound a salesy point, but there's a real meaning behind it. Because if you can't see this across different things, you can't say, well, that happened because this happened previously. Every time this happened previously, that's going to happen. And if you've got these in different places, you're never going to see that pattern. So two things. One is at least make sure you've got the main touch points covered. by a system, but then look at how you can start to migrate them together into one place. Even if you have to bring some of them in the short term into Salesforce in some other way, at least get that data into there. But the best
This
answer is the first one I gave.
This kind of follow-up question to that, which is you've got multiple people in your organization, and it's kind of hard to get everybody aligned until they see some sort of, results. So is there a way to start one thing that kind of helps to align the organization or so that they can see that those results? I didn't ask that question in the exact form that it was asked here, but you can see where I'm going with it.
Um, Quite often, one of the easiest ways to do that is to actually go up a level. By which I mean, if you've got lots of different people, well, do they report into a similar sort of base, or take a high level view and say, well, these are the things that matter to our business at the moment. These are the things that are our strategic priorities, and then map what you are currently doing onto those. And if you find gaps, then start to say, well, we've got a big gap there. We know that winning new business deals really matters to us, but we're not doing anything in terms of understanding how customers respond to our content or how customers respond to our sales activity. Let's fill that gap. So often by going up and looking at it from above rather than from where you are or below is a good way to think about that.
Great, thank you. We got a question here from Mark. How much customization is available for data analysis? For example, if I have 40 question survey and one question asks if participants attend event A, B, or C, I would like to see how different events performed and compare which amenities participants participated in at different events. Quinn,
Yeah, I
I
would
think you
say,
might take that one.
yeah. So the answer is it is completely customizable. That's the beauty of our application being native within Salesforce. As long as these points of data are in Salesforce, we can help you easily build any kind of reporting, customize it exactly as you'd like. So the answer is it's very easily customizable.
So if they have all these different events, the key there would be to make sure that the data associated with those events, so the amenities they participated in, all was included in some sort of Salesforce record, right?
Exactly.
So if they
Yes.
if they filled out a
Yeah.
form and they said, I would want these things, then you could tie that to their event results as well. I participated in this event. I requested these things as part of my event, and this is the grade I gave that event. If all of those live in Salesforce, you can build a report off of that. Hopefully that answers Mark's
And if they
question.
don't live in Salesforce, at least one thing you could do is, if there's an easy way to do it, ask that question in the survey.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you can start to filter based on answers to other questions.
Great.
Excuse me.
And then one more, in terms of reporting and dashboards, can I show different filters and visualizations on the same dashboard?
Yes. So all of our dashboards are easy to filter, export, share. So you can configure those to look and feel exactly as you'd like, and you can share those as needed.
Wonderful. I think that is all the questions that we have here today. So we're able to wrap up a little early as promised. Let me just make sure. Yep, I think that's it. And what we will be sending out again, we'll be sending out this recording, and we appreciate everybody's time today and have a great day. Thank you
Yeah.
all.
Thanks, everyone.
You might even get a survey.
You might get a survey. Thank you all. Bye.